I used to think people who saw UFOs were crazy. Then I sat down with the sworn testimony of U.S. Navy pilots and intelligence officials, and the physics stopped adding up. You know, what's truly fascinating is this recent shift in how we discuss UFOs, or as the government has rebranded them, UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena. For so long, reporting a UFO sighting was a surefire way to have your credibility destroyed, to be instantly dismissed as a conspiracy theorist or someone who'd indulged a bit too much. Yet something truly remarkable has occurred over the last several years. Serious individuals, military pilots, intelligence officials, members of Congress, are now discussing UFOs as if they are real, documented phenomena warranting serious investigation. Just in 2023, a former intelligence official, David Grusch, gave testimony before Congress alleging the U.S. government has retrieved craft of non-human origin and even biological remains of non-human entities. Detailed accounts have come forward from multiple Navy pilots, describing encounters with objects that appear to defy our known laws of physics. These objects reportedly accelerate instantly to hypersonic speeds, execute right-angle turns of velocities that would pulverize any known aircraft, move seamlessly from air to water, and hover motionless against hurricane-force winds. We've seen videos released by the Pentagon, official, declassified footage from military sensors showing objects performing maneuvers our best aircraft cannot replicate. Congress has held hearings. Official government programs have been established to investigate these phenomena. This territory is no longer fringe conspiracy theory. This is happening within mainstream political and military institutions. So what exactly is going on? Is the truth that we are being visited by extraterrestrial craft? Is evidence of alien technology and alien bodies being hidden by the government? Or does a more mundane explanation exist for these phenomena? Advanced foreign technology, sensor artifacts, misidentifications, or something else entirely? As a physicist, my approach to this must be the same as for any extraordinary claim: open-minded skepticism. I take the observations seriously. These are credible witnesses employing sophisticated sensors. But I also must examine what the laws of physics tell us about the plausibility of the offered explanations, what alternative explanations exist, and what level of evidence we would require to justify a conclusion as extraordinary as visitation by aliens. Let me begin by laying out what is actually being claimed, because the details are critical and media coverage often conflates different types of claims. First, we have the observational claims. Military personnel, particularly Navy pilots and radar operators, report detecting and observing objects displaying seemingly impossible flight characteristics. These objects are said to accelerate instantly from a hover to hypersonic speeds, multiple times the speed of sound, with no visible means of propulsion. They make sharp turns, including right-angle turns, at speeds that would generate G-forces sufficient to destroy any aircraft and pulverize any biological pilot. They move seamlessly between air and water without losing velocity, as if the medium were irrelevant. They hover motionless in high winds with no visible propulsion. They appear on multiple sensor systems simultaneously: radar, infrared, visual, which eliminates a single sensor artifact as an explanation. They operate at altitudes and speeds our best aircraft cannot match. Second, there are the physical claims. Whistleblowers, particularly David Grusch, but others over the years, allege that the U.S. government has retrieved multiple crashed or landed craft of apparently non-human origin, has recovered biological remains of non-human entities from these events, has operated secret reverse engineering programs to understand and replicate the technology, and has hidden all of this from Congress, the public, and even most of the government within highly compartmentalized programs. Third, we have the historical claims that this has been ongoing for decades, possibly since the 1940s with incidents like Roswell, and that a systematic cover-up has involved multiple administrations, military branches, and intelligence agencies. These are extraordinary claims, and they demand extraordinary evidence. Let me examine each category carefully, starting with the observational claims, as those are the most documented and the easiest to evaluate. These reports originate from highly credible witnesses. Navy pilots like Commander David Fravor, who encountered the now famous Tic Tac object off the coast of California in 2004, are experienced professionals trained in observation and threat assessment. These are not random civilians seeing lights in the sky. They're using sophisticated military sensors, correlating observations across multiple platforms, aircraft, ships, satellites, and following standard protocols for documenting encounters. The Pentagon has released several videos of these encounters. The most famous are the Tic Tac, Gimbal, and Go Fast videos. These show objects on infrared sensors behaving anomalously, moving in ways conventional aircraft do not, displaying characteristics that are difficult to explain. So the observations are real in the sense that something was detected by multiple sensors and observed by trained personnel. The question is, what was detected? And do the observed behaviors truly defy physics as dramatically as the descriptions suggest? Let me walk through some specific claims and examine them from a physics perspective. Claim: objects accelerate instantly from hovering to hypersonic speeds with no visible propulsion. From a physics standpoint, acceleration requires force. Newton's second law, F equals ma. To accelerate a massive object, you must apply a force. That force has to originate somewhere, typically from ejecting mass, rockets, pushing against air, propellers, jets, electromagnetic interaction, ion drives, or some other environmental interaction. Instant acceleration is impossible. Acceleration takes time, even if it is very rapid. But let's grant that instant here means extremely rapid, faster than any conventional aircraft. Could an object accelerate from 0 to, say, Mach 5 in a second or two? The required acceleration would be enormous. Going from 0 to Mach 5, about 1,700 meters per second, in 1 second implies an acceleration of roughly 1,700 meters per square second, or about 170 Gs. For comparison, fighter jets can pull at most about 9 to 12 Gs before the pilot loses consciousness, and structural limits of the aircraft come into play around 15 to 20 Gs. So we're discussing accelerations an order of magnitude beyond what our aircraft can handle. This would necessitate either 1. A craft of extraordinary structural strength with no biological pilot, or a pilot that can withstand 170 Gs. 2. A propulsion system applying force uniformly throughout the craft to avoid structural stress. Or 3. Some exotic physics bypassing the need for conventional force and acceleration. The first option is technically conceivable, a drone-like craft built to withstand extreme G-forces. The second is more speculative, but not impossible, e.g., a uniform force field. The third ventures into unknown physics. But here is a crucial question. Are these acceleration estimates accurate? How do we know the object went from hovering to Mach 5 in 1 second, rather than, say, 5 seconds? Or the actual measurements? This is where sensor limitations and observational uncertainties enter. Radar tracking of fast-moving objects has known limitations. Infrared sensors can be fooled by atmospheric effects, reflections, or artifacts. Visual estimations of speed and acceleration from a moving platform are notoriously unreliable. I am not asserting the observations are wrong. I am stating that estimating the true performance characteristics of an unknown object from sensor data and visual observations is profoundly difficult and prone to error. The claimed performance might be exaggerated not because witnesses are lying, but because the observations lack the precision needed for accurate estimates. Claim: objects make right-angle turns at high speeds. This is physically possible, but extraordinarily challenging. Making a 90 degrees turn at high speed requires enormous centripetal acceleration. The tighter the turn radius and the higher the speed, the greater the acceleration. If you're traveling a Mach 5 and make a right-angle turn over a distance of, say, 100 meters, the centripetal acceleration would be approximately v superscript 2/r, working out to about 29,000 meters per square second, or roughly 3,000 Gs. Nothing we can build survives that. But again, the devil is in the details. Was it a precise right-angle turn, or a sharp turn that appeared right-angled from the observer's perspective. What was the actual turn radius? The actual speed? These details matter enormously for determining if the maneuver violates known physics or merely pushes the boundaries of current engineering. There is also the possibility of misperception. When observing a fast-moving object from another moving platform, an aircraft, determining the exact trajectory is difficult. Parallax effects, relative motion, and limited observation angles can create illusions of motion. Claim: objects move seamlessly between air and water without losing speed. This is particularly interesting because the physics of moving through air versus water is drastically different. Water is about 800 times denser than air, so drag forces are enormously higher. An object traveling at high speed through air would slow dramatically upon water entry, unless it has a way to dramatically reduce drag. Known phenomena could assist here. Supercavitation, for instance, is a technique where a bubble of gas is created around an object moving through water, dramatically reducing drag. Soviet and Russian torpedoes have used this to achieve high underwater speeds. But transitioning smoothly from air to water at high speed while maintaining velocity would require either very advanced supercavitation technology, a craft optimized for both media in ways we haven't achieved, or some exotic physics that modifies how the craft interacts with matter. This is technologically challenging, but not necessarily impossible. It pushes known engineering boundaries, but doesn't unequivocally demand new physics. Claim: objects appear on multiple sensor systems simultaneously. This is actually one of the more compelling aspects. A single sensor observation can be an artifact, a radar glitch, an infrared anomaly, a visual illusion. But when multiple independent sensors, radar, infrared, visual, detect the same object simultaneously and the detections correlate, that is much harder to dismiss as an artifact. This strongly suggests that something real, a physical object or phenomenon, is present. The question becomes what that something is, not whether it exists. Having examined the observational claims, let me step back and consider the broader question. If these are real objects displaying these capabilities, what could they be? Option 1. Advanced human technology, ours, or adversarial. This is the most mundane explanation, and by Occam's razor, the one we should consider first. Could these be classified U.S. projects or advanced technology from Russia or China? Arguments 4. Militaries develop classified technology constantly. Stealth aircraft, drones, and other advanced systems were secret for years. The U.S. military has a history of testing experimental aircraft in areas where they might be observed by other units not read into the program, generating UFO reports. Some observed characteristics could be achieved with advanced but not physics-defying technology, e.g., plasma stealth, exotic propulsion, sophisticated drones. Arguments against: some observations date back decades. If this is human technology from the 1950s or 60s, why hasn't such revolutionary capability been deployed more broadly in the intervening 60 to 70 years? The performance characteristics, if accurate, exceed publicly known possibilities by substantial margins. Keeping technology that advanced secret for so long while making no public use seems unlikely. Whistleblower testimony suggests these objects are not ours, that the U.S. is trying to reverse engineer them. Could it be adversarial technology? This seems even less plausible. If China or Russia possess technology decades ahead of the U.S., we'd expect evidence in other domains: aviation, space, military systems. Their general technological capabilities don't suggest they are orders of magnitude ahead. And why would they routinely violate U.S. military airspace with such prized technology, risking its capture or revelation? While advanced human technology cannot be ruled out entirely, it strains credulity for the more extreme observations. Option 2. Sensor artifacts, misidentifications, or mundane phenomena. This is the skeptical default and deserves serious consideration. Possibilities include radar artifacts, anomalous propagation, multiple reflections, electronic warfare creating false returns, Infrared artifacts, atmospheric effects, reflections, hot spots, parallax and misperception, illusions created by observing from moving platforms, mundane objects misidentified, balloons, birds, drones, aircraft, or space debris under unusual conditions. Arguments for. Most historical UFO reports have mundane explanations upon thorough investigation. Human perception is fallible, even for trained observers. Sensor systems have known limitations. Arguments against. The most compelling cases involve multiple independent sensors, making single sensor artifacts less likely. Experienced military personnel are trained to recognize mundane objects and sensor artifacts. Dismissing all reports as misidentification seems patronizing. Some observations involve visual confirmation correlated with sensor data. The Pentagon itself is taking these seriously and hasn't concluded they're all artifacts. So, while a fraction of reports are certainly misidentifications, it's harder to dismiss all of them this way, particularly the best documented cases. Option 3. Natural phenomena we don't fully understand. Could atmospheric, electromagnetic, or plasma phenomena create the appearance of solid objects with anomalous flight characteristics? Arguments for. It doesn't require assuming alien visitors or revolutionary technology. It could explain why these phenomena have been observed for decades without clear resolution. It could explain some apparently physics-defying behavior if the objects are ephemeral phenomena like plasma, not solid craft. Arguments against. Natural phenomena typically don't display the purposeful, controlled behavior many UAPs appear to show, e.g., hovering over specific locations, responding to aircraft. Radar/infrared returns from plasma would likely differ from those of solid objects, and military sensors should distinguish them. This doesn't explain claims of recovered physical craft or biological remains. Natural phenomena might explain some observations, but seem insufficient for the full range of reported behaviors. Option 4. Non-human intelligence, extraterrestrial or otherwise. This is the extraordinary explanation requiring extraordinary evidence. The claim is that these are craft operated by intelligent beings not from Earth. Arguments for. It would explain the apparently advanced technology no human nation seems to possess. It could explain the long history of observations. It fits whistleblower claims about non-human craft and biologics. The performance characteristics suggest technology far beyond our capabilities. Arguments against. It requires accepting that practical interstellar travel is possible, which faces enormous physics challenges, vast distances, energy requirements, time. If aliens visit Earth routinely, why no unambiguous evidence? Why only ambiguous sensor data and contested reports? The crash and recovery narrative implies aliens competent enough for interstellar travel, but incompetent enough to crash frequently. The scale of conspiracy required for a decades-long, multi-administration cover-up strains credibility. This is where we must bring in a Fermi and Drake equation-informed physics analysis. How plausible is visitation by extraterrestrial intelligence? Let me explore that, as it's crucial for evaluating the ET hypothesis. We've laid out observations and possible explanations. Now I want to dig deep into the extraterrestrial hypothesis because it captures public imagination and seems suggested by recent testimonies. But we must evaluate this rigorously using physics, astronomy, and probability. Consider the Drake equation framework for estimating the number of communicating civilizations in our galaxy. Recent discoveries show planets are common, and many are in the habitable zone. But we still don't know the crucial probabilities. How likely is life to emerge? Intelligence to evolve? How long do technological civilizations last? Assume optimistically there are thousands or even millions of technological civilizations in the Milky Way. That sounds like a lot, but our galaxy contains 200 to 400 billion stars. If there are a million civilizations, they are spread thinly. The average distance between them could be thousands of light years. Now, the physics problems become crucial. Interstellar travel faces monumental challenges. vast distances, energy requirements, the interstellar dust problem at high velocities, and immense travel times even at relativistic speeds. Faster-than-light travel, wormholes, or other exotic shortcuts are either impossible or require physics we don't understand and have no evidence for. Practical interstellar travel, if possible, likely requires either very long journey times, centuries to millennia, or technology far beyond ours. So, even if thousands of civilizations exist, how many have solved interstellar travel? How many are actively exploring? How many, having solved these immense challenges, would find Earth interesting enough for repeated visits over decades? Consider an alien civilization's perspective. They're thousands of light years away. They detect Earth has life, perhaps via atmospheric biosignatures, or, more recently, our radio emissions. They decide to investigate. Given the challenges, this is likely either a one-way robotics/AI probe, a generation ship, a civilization-scale project, or uses exotic technology, FTL, etc. The first two options suggest visitation would be an enormous, rare event, not routine visits by multiple craft over decades. The third requires assuming and proven physics. Yet UAP reports suggest frequent observations over recent decades, with historical reports going back further. This frequency seems incompatible with the profound difficulties of interstellar travel. Moreover, a logical problem exists. They advanced enough to cross the galaxy, too dumb to fly safely on Earth paradox. If a civilization has mastered interstellar travel, they've mastered energy, materials, propulsion, and navigation. They're not going to crash due to thunderstorms, mechanical failure, or primitive weapons. The combination of can cross interstellar space and crashes regularly doesn't cohere. Potential counterarguments exist. Maybe aliens aren't from light years away, but are nearby, the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis of a hidden base. Maybe they are time travelers from Earth's future. Maybe they use FTL/dimensional shortcuts, making travel trivial. Maybe Earth is in a uniquely interesting galactic region. Each requires additional extraordinary assumptions, hidden bases, time travel, new physics, Earth's uniqueness. Let me now address claims about crash retrievals and biological remains, as recent testimonies have been most dramatic here. David Grusch testified the U.S. has retrieved intact/partially intact non-human vehicles and biological remains, with decades-long, compartmentalized reverse engineering programs hidden from oversight. If true, this would be the most important discovery in history. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. What evidence has been provided? As of now, testimony from whistleblowers. Testimony is not physical evidence. It is not a craft we can examine, biological samples we can analyze, or technology we can test. Grusch has provided no public physical evidence. He claims to have provided classified evidence to the Inspector General and Congress in closed sessions, but the public hasn't seen it. We are asked to take his word that such evidence exists. We cannot evaluate claims of extraordinary evidence we're not allowed to see. We must either trust witnesses implicitly or remain skeptical until physical evidence becomes available. Proponents explain the lack of public evidence by citing supreme classification, compartmentalization, secrecy agreements, and potential rogue elements suppressing disclosure. This is unfalsifiable. From a scientific standpoint, it's frustrating. Science requires examinable, testable, replicable evidence. Testimony about unseen evidence isn't sufficient, regardless of witness credibility. Furthermore, the conspiracy required seems implausible. We're discussing multiple crash sites over decades, retrieved craft being transported/stored/studied, biological remains analyzed, reverse engineering programs employing hundreds or thousands of people, all kept secret across administrations, parties, and agencies for 70-plus years. The U.S. government has a poor track record of keeping perfect secrets. The Manhattan Project, involving tens of thousands, had breaches. A program of this magnitude and import would require similar numbers, and the secret would need to hold far longer. It's possible, but strains credulity. Now, a point proponents make. The government is taking this seriously. Congress holds hearings. The Pentagon releases videos and establishes UAP offices. Doesn't that suggest something real? Yes and no. It suggests the observations are real and that institutions want to understand them, possibly due to threat assessment, adversarial technology, sensor vulnerability concerns, aviation safety, or political pressure. None of this requires aliens. The official position has been, observations are real and deserve investigation, but there is no evidence of extraterrestrial origin. Unidentified means we don't know what it is, not we know it's alien. Now, let me examine the physics of claimed behaviors more carefully. Some reported behaviors, if accurate, seem to challenge conservation laws. For instance, high-speed acceleration with no visible propulsion suggests either 1. A propulsion system we don't understand, violating action-reaction. 2. Energy drawn from an undetected source, vacuum energy. Or 3. The observations are misinterpreted. The first two require new physics. The third admits observational limitations. I am open to new physics. Science advances by discovering phenomena that don't fit. But the standard is high. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Before concluding physics is violated, we must 1. Rule out mundane explanations with confidence. 2. Have precise measurements showing the violation is real. 3. Preferably have the phenomenon be reproducible. For most UAP observations, we lack this level. We have ambiguous sensor data, eyewitness testimony with perceptual limits, and performance estimates dependent on assumptions. This doesn't mean observations are wrong. It means they are puzzling, but don't yet justify claims of physics violations. Now, let's address psychological/sociological aspects, as they're important. Humans have always interpreted ambiguous sky phenomena through their cultural lens. Angels, airships, now aliens. When people see something unidentifiable, they categorize it based on plausible cultural narratives. In our space-age sci-fi era, alien spacecraft is a plausible category. This doesn't mean all sightings are misidentifications, but we must be cautious jumping from unidentified to alien. There's also a strong psychological desire for the claim to be true. Contact with advanced aliens would be thrilling, significant. This desire can lead to confirmation bias, lower evidence standards, and interpreting ambiguity in the most exciting way. I'm not accusing anyone of bad faith. These are normal cognitive biases affecting everyone, including scientists. Furthermore, witnesses reporting UFOs often face ridicule, creating defensiveness and echo chambers where skepticism is unwelcome. The result is polarization, believers convinced of a cover-up, and skeptics dismissing everything. Neither extreme is justified. The truth is likely in the middle. Genuine observations exist, most with mundane explanations. A small fraction are puzzling, and we should neither dismiss all nor jump to extraordinary conclusions without extraordinary evidence. What would constitute convincing evidence of extraterrestrial visitation? For a scientist, 1. Physical artifact available for independent community study, craft piece, technology, biological sample. 2. Technology demonstrably violating known physics in testable, replicable ways. 3. Clear, unambiguous data definitively ruling out human tech, artifacts, or natural phenomena. For communication providing unknowable information, mathematical proofs, etc. 5. Evidence not relying on trust us. We have secret proof. None of this currently exists publicly. We have ambiguous data, testimony, and claims of classified evidence. This doesn't prove aliens aren't visiting. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence, but it means we should remain skeptical until better evidence emerges. In conclusion, are we being visited by aliens? My assessment, based on available evidence, almost certainly not. The observations are real in that trained personnel detect unexplained phenomena. But the extraterrestrial explanation faces too many problems. The physics of interstellar travel makes routine visitation unlikely. The crash retrieval narrative is inconsistent with advanced capability. No unambiguous physical evidence exists publicly despite decades of claims. The required conspiracy is implausibly vast and long-lasting. More mundane explanations can account for most or all observations. Whistleblower testimony, while compelling, is not sufficient for such extraordinary claims. It can be mistaken or based on incomplete information. I remain open to evidence that would change my mind. Physical artifacts, clear documentation, unambiguous data showing definitive physics violations. But based on what is currently public, the alien hypothesis is not supported. It's exciting to want it to be true, but wanting doesn't make it so. What is most likely happening? A layered explanation. The vast majority, 80 to 90%, mundane misidentifications and sensor artifacts. A small fraction, 5 to 10% advanced, but conventional human technology classified programs. A tiny fraction, 1 to 5% atmospheric/electromagnetic phenomena we don't fully understand. A very small, high-concern fraction, foreign adversary tech more advanced than publicly known. A residual small fraction, genuinely unknown phenomena deserving scientific investigation. The recent prominence stems from cultural shifts, less stigma, UAP rebranding, sensor proliferation, geopolitical concerns, China, political dynamics, institutional momentum, whistleblower cascades, and possibly information warfare/disinformation. The claims of crash retrievals and reverse engineering are likely based on misinterpretation, secondhand information, disinformation, or compartmentalized programs misunderstood as being about aliens. This conclusion isn't exciting, but it's what the evidence supports with rigorous analysis. The UAP phenomenon, regardless of explanation, reveals important lessons about how we process uncertainty, evaluate evidence, and navigate the space between science and belief in our information age. The scientific method offers the path forward. Gather evidence systematically, test hypotheses rigorously, consider mundane explanations first, require physical evidence, and remain open yet skeptical. We should continue investigating UAPs for aviation safety, sensor integrity, potential adversarial tech, and scientific curiosity, but we shouldn't let excitement lower our standards of evidence. The universe is strange and wonderful enough without needing aliens to frequently visit Earth, conveniently crash, yet never leave definitive proof. The truth is probably less thrilling than alien visitation, but more interesting than it's all nonsense. And that's where honest investigation leads.